Well, guys, it's been a really good
Well, guys, come on. Here I am in back at my dad's second guest house, and
week for Vladimir Putin.
And
And there's more.
There's
more. It's hard to believe.
it's hard to believe. There's lots more. I have it written down here in these notes the Heritage Foundation faxed me.
The White House now is
The
freezing
what? The White House?
a Ukraine military aid package that included
Yeah, that turned out not to be true.
lethal weapons. Okay, so Russia, they got a pipeline. They got the
I mean, this isn't actually happening, but
look really dominant and alpha versus Joe Biden on a war.
dominant and alpha. Try not to chub next to a picture of Putin. Look at this. Wow, Biden hands another win to Putin. Wait, is this? Yeah, there you go. Biden hands another win to Putin.
A world stage all week.
Guys.
And now the White
And now the
House is freezing an aid package of military equipment to the Ukraine.
Oh, that's weird. Hold on. Let's see. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki slammed as nonsense a report on Friday that the Biden administration had held up military aid package meant for Ukraine worth up to $100 million. Politico, citing 4 people familiar with the internal deliberations, interesting, reported earlier in the day that officials on the National Security Council put delivery of the aid, which included lethal munitions like anti-tank weapons and small arms, on hold after the Kremlin announced the withdrawal of some Russian troops from positions along the Ukraine border in late April. The idea that we have held back security assistance to Ukraine is nonsense, Psaki said in a statement just last week in the run-up to the U.S.-Russia summit. We provided a $150 million package of security assistance, including lethal assistance. We have now provided that entire amount appropriated by Congress through the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. So $50 million higher than the supposedly withheld $100 million. So I'm guessing they sent $150 million early, so the $100 million was part of that. All right. Psaki also noted Biden's statement on June 14th, the U.S. will do all that we can to put Ukraine in the position to be able to continue to resist Russian physical aggression. We have also prepared contingency funds in the event of a further Russian incursion into Ukraine. Thanks, Robert. Bless you. As President Biden told Russian President Vladimir Putin directly, we will stand unwavering in support of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So not only did we send $150 million before the meeting with Putin, the White House is calling BS on the report that $100 million was stopped. I'm curious about your opinion on the UFO report coming soon. I will do it. I'll cover that. I love me some UFO stories. All right.
Man, Putin.
Man, it's almost like I need a win so bad I gotta think of another reason, guys, why I could pucker up and tickle Putin's rectum with my whiskers.
Is winning right now, folks. And by the way, out of curiosity, based on the rules that the Democrats themselves...
This is a grown man's voice? Thank you, Foozle.
...put... Didn't Trump get impeached for doing this?
No. He threatened to withhold funds specifically to get something he wanted out of it. He didn't get impeached for giving $150 million before a summit.
Isn't this sort of a quid pro quo? Russia says, hey, yeah, we'll play along nicely. We'll give you a little something. Why don't you pull...
What? Wait. What was the little something?
Pull that aid package from the Ukraine. Oh, sure. I'll do that, Vlad. That's great. Can I go have...
Is that how this works?
My ice cream and a nap now? I mean, that's, to me, feels like what would be the Joe Biden conversation.
The Joe Biden cliche?
So, maybe
Guys.
Maybe this is a way to pressure Ukraine to give Hunter some more deals. Maybe, you want to...
Maybe I've got to do cameos and crank out rumbles to buy blow, and I'm getting the cheap stuff which someone is cutting with Ajax, and it's making my nose squeak.
5 or 10%.
I've got a deviant septum. It's very different. It's basically like it's a deviated septum, but if you're okay with your dad talking about fucking your sister.
For the big guy, maybe that's how Ukraine could get something like this against Russia, but no, now they've frozen it because of some sort of token appeasement from Russia, which
Oh, token appeasement. Token appeasement for Russia.
They're not going to actually stand by. They're not going to actually back up. They'll do what they...
Well, they actually left already. What the article is saying is that Russia already did it. See if you can. I mean, again, I don't know if you went to the Dan Bongino School of Reading Comprehension, but it seems like you did. Let's take a quicker look at this, shall we? Politico citing 4 people familiar that they held the stuff back. The idea that we've held back assistance to Ukraine is nonsense. Just last week in the run-up to the U.S.-Russia summit, we provided a $150 million package of security assistance, including this was saying, let's see, the national that officials on the National Security Council put delivery of the aid, which include lethal munitions like anti-tank weapons and small arms, on hold after the Kremlin announced the withdrawal of some Russian troops from positions along the Ukraine border in late April. So the hold that was put on in late April of $100 million worth of funds and lethal aid turned out to be $150 million that was released earlier than supposedly the funds were not released in the other $100 million. The $150 million package reportedly provides training, equipment, advisory efforts, and improving interoperability with NATO, according to a statement released by the Department of Defense on June 11th. The report alarmed Republicans like Marco Rubio, yes, who tweeted, "Remember when freezing military aid to Ukraine was an impeachable offense?" Well, yeah, when you're doing it to get dirt on your political opponent, but a reference to the claim that Democrats that the Trump administration conditioned the release $400 million worth of military aid on the Kyiv government, opening an investigation into Joe Biden and his son Hunter and their business dealing in Ukraine. Lee Stefanik, accused Biden on Twitter of shamefully turning his back on our Ukrainian allies. All of a sudden, they give a shit. Friday marked the second time this week that the White House has denied reports of major foreign policy action involving Ukraine. On Monday, the president denied Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky claimed that NATO leaders had confirmed the Eastern European nation would be allowed to join the transatlantic alliance. Russia has long said it considers such a move to be a red line. It depends on whether they meet the criteria. The fact is they still have to clean up corruption. The fact is they have to meet our other criteria to get into the action plan. And so it's, school's out on that question. It remains to be seen. So they're not rushing into things. Last month, the White House went so far as to cross out part of a transcript of remarks by Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre that expressed support for Ukraine joining NATO. The White House said that the time that Jean-Pierre had misspoke and her words did not reflect official policy. Let's guys, hang on.
Do what they do to get the win. They get the win, then they'll do whatever the hell they want. We'll sit there wondering.
With what? Sit there and give them another $100 million worth of offensive weaponry on top of the $150 million we gave them right before Biden met with Putin? Did it ever occur to anyone that in April they withheld that stuff so that they could release it instead of at that time, weeks before, so that there would be a talking point with Putin? They could use it as a chess move the day before. Let's release this aid the day before we show up or 2 days before we show up so that they're on their heels. I mean, it could, if you're a thinking person, perhaps.
Wondering what happened.
Anyways, what was I talking about?
Biden even claimed in his press conference, I thought, that they were supplying defensive weapons. So apparently he lied. But remember.
Or perhaps the source was wrong for the story and that the other aid has already gone out the door. And it's offensive weaponry.
President suspending Ukrainian aid is an impeachable offense. I know.
It is an offense. Of all the horrible offenses that one could commit It's an impeachable offense, guys.
No, because my father went through it. It turned out that was nonsense, but here it is, right before your actual and very eyes. Right?
Your actual and very eyes. Guys.
This isn't standing up to Vladimir Putin. Okay?
Putin?
Not only did they exchange lists, we told them the things we don't want them to target, which means they know exactly what we don't want them to target.
We have a red line. Yes, we define. You're defining a red line. And by the way, do you think this has come up a bunch? This will be in another clip. We'll get to that in a second. But this idea that somehow Russia doesn't know that we consider shutting down hospitals through hacking to be a red line, instead of just drawing a line in the sand and going, don't, dude, across this line, you do not. Also, dude, Rusky is not the preferred nomenclature. Russian American, please.
So they'll do that. They'll probably blame Trump anyway. They'll probably try to impeach Trump a third time, even though Joe Biden's literally doing what they impeached Trump for, or try to.
No. Trump was impeached for leveraging aid that was already sent out specifically about getting dirt on his political opponent. This is just a story in Politico saying that the 100 million didn't go out when 150 million already did, and there's no leverage. I mean, there's no benefit tacitly.
But we all
as a matter of fact, if he was trying to help quote unquote Hunter drum up business, the idea was we would slather Ukraine with money right now, right?
Trump not because of any actions, but because they hated that he took on the establishment. Okay?
Yeah, why won't anyone else take on the establishment? Who established this thing in the first place?
Another win for Putin, and
I don't understand why these assholes can't roll back and fix it where everybody misspeaks. Go back and fix it. Don't pretend that's a new word you invented.
No wonder you see the articles in Russia. Joe Biden, he seems very sharp.
Do you?
He's a bright and intelligent man. No wonder Putin's defending Biden. He got the
Yeah, no wonder.
pipeline again, no pushback. He got what he wanted from there. He got a military aid package suspended for Ukraine. I mean,
Except he didn't.
Biden is winning. He's going to tell Joe he's the most brilliant man in the world, when in fact he's a
Yeah, he didn't tell Biden that. He said that in an interview. And by the way, if you're saying that if Russia compliments you, this is
about you.
Sure. When people call you brilliant, it's always good, especially when the person heads up Russia.
All right. Well, that's it's a rough one, but sure. I gotta shut this window. It's gonna
a schmuck. Okay? That's all it is, guys. I mean,
Guys, that's all. Look, I'm almost running out of steam, and I'm only halfway through this video, and I've got to look down at my notes.
it's hilarious.
I wrote hilarious on the
How
paper.
Biden is doing everything that Trump was accused of, but the mainstream media is not calling for his impeachment. They're not calling for anything. They think it's
Sorry. Has Biden openly said that if his one of his daughters if he had a daughter and it wasn't his daughter, he'd fuck her? Has he bragged about grabbing women between their legs without asking permission? Did he threaten Ukraine to get dirt on Trump, for example, in an exchange for military aid? No, none of those. No. Trump destroyed the establishment. That's the problem. Yeah.
It's great that
Clearly,
Vladimir
Robert.
Putin's getting all these wins. So now the Ukraine military can use rocks to throw at the Russians when their weapons are out of ammo, and when Russia inevitably comes across their borders trying to take over the rest of the country, right? Because you and I both know that's what's going to happen. And
Yeah. Guys, put a pin in it right now. Put a pin in it right now. That's what's happening.
there's
Guys.
some precedent for that as well, okay? This is what's going on, man.
This is what's going on.
It's like someone failed to register Joe Biden as a Russian lobbyist.
Methinks milady doth project too much.
As an agent of Russia. You know,
It's like
it's like a FARA violation, right? Like, this is, if you were a registered lobbyist for Russia, these are the things that you'd be lobbying for. And Joe Biden is just...
Well, no, you wouldn't. You definitely wouldn't want $150 million worth of military aid, including offensive weaponry, to show up days before your summit that you were having, where you were going to, according to Dan Bongino, puff up your chicken feathers and show off your alpha maleness.
Just giving it away. Germany got the pipeline. Russia makes billions. We'll keep spending money in NATO, funding 70% approximately of NATO, to defend the people who are enriching Russia from the Russians. You guys are doing phenomenal. Great foreign policy, guys. I guess we know why.
There's not going to be a Trump Tower Moscow anytime.
People don't go into government, because this is incompetence. So, maybe...
What? I'm sorry, what? We know what?
People don't go into government. Great foreign policy, guys. I guess we know why people don't go into government, because this is incompetence.
People don't go into government? Your dad went into... What?
So, maybe there's just got to be a bidding war for the big guy, and how many percent of whatever deal he can get. Maybe that's the way Ukraine can get a fair shake. But Moscow Joe, these are the actions of...
I mean, don't get me wrong. This is magic, and I'm enjoying this. I think it's, I'm glad you thought it out ahead of time, and it's nice that this is double the length of your regular Rumble video. I mean, obviously, you're not retaining anybody, because there's only, you're not even clearing 500 Rumbles on this thing. This is not a strong showing. But, I appreciate you going through, each of these beats beforehand and going, how am I going to nail this? How do we sell this old guy's Moscow Joe thing?
Of a Russian agent. These are the actions that got the former president impeached.
No, the actions that got the former president impeached, besides contributing to the insurrection on January 6th, was threatening Russia's military aid based on helping him in a political fight. Now, the look on your face right now, I think, is one of those moments where we freeze frame and you recognize this is where we see those glimpses of true emotion. When you accidentally freeze on something, and sometimes it's like, huh, or sometimes you just look dumb, but sometimes it's like a window on your soul. Look at the misery.
Let's see what happens. And
let's see what happens.
Tell you guys, nothing. Maybe we could get the Keystone Pipeline back if we rename it Nord Stream 3. It may...
Maybe if restrained it?
Just slip by Joe Biden. Maybe if he thinks we're building a pipeline for the...
He's reading off cards again.
Benefit of Russia in the United States, maybe we could get it, and we could get the jobs for those Americans who actually...
Oh, you mean the Canadians? You mean the Canadian pipeline? The Canadian shale oil pipeline? The ones that apparently are fighting us on lumber because of dairy? That whole thing? That we should... All right.
Actually and desperately need it. I mean, I can't believe they literally impeached my father for just threatening.
Threatening what? What was he threatening?
To do exactly what Joe Biden is doing. Putin...
Is it? No, it's not the threatening. Well, I mean, presidents threaten other countries to cut off aid, for example, quite a bit. This is a regular thing. As a matter of fact, especially when it's on behalf of the federal government. I'll give you an example. Who can I think of? Like Joe Biden did with the Ukrainian prosecutor, as a direct order from the president and in relation to policy by the administration and the Congress about corruption within Ukraine, and that particular prosecutor who was a Russian sock puppet and then went on to live in Russia under the protection of Vladimir Putin. When you threaten someone in that circumstance, you can brag about it, which Biden did. Or let's say if you're threatening a foreign country to cut off aid because you're trying to get them to drum up dirt on your political opponent to help you win an election, and the aid package has always been already been okayed by the Congress and is allegedly part of the policy of the country and the Congress and of course the administration to provide that aid, and yet you are going against that and withholding it just to help yourself, for example, then that wouldn't be something you would say brag about. That's something where you would take the full transcript and you would hide it on a server that is a higher level of classified than this particular conversation qualifies for. And then you would allow later on, because you're a moron, the baseline transcript, which is not a full transcript, of course, just kind of, borderline transcript, which has a huge chunk of it cut out. You would release that because you're a moron and you think it protects you, and it doesn't.
Putin can't believe how
Guys, thanks, Robert.
stupid we are.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's amazed that we were stupid enough to elect your father, for example. And that was awesome, but the free lunch is up.
There's literally, it feels like nothing else we could do to accommodate him even any more. And it's only...
Well, sure there is. Yeah, I mean, one of the things you could do is, like, let's say the Congress passed more sanctions, and they said these sanctions have to go into effect by a certain date. You could do what your dad did, which is not instigate them right away or as quickly as possible. You could wait till midnight on the actual deadline day to give the Russians and the oligarchs around Vladimir Putin enough time to, like, hide and skate their money all over the world. Like, you could do that. There's more you could do, of course,
only been 6 months, so it's going great.
Yeah, I agree.
Can you imagine the leftists and their shrieking and the screaming and the craziness that you'd see if Trump had done this? Can you imagine?
Well, first of all, he would have said fake news because they wouldn't have done it around this. And it wasn't that he did something, it was the why that gets you in trouble. That's why we have murder and killing in self-defense. The other person's still dead, but the distinction as far as its legality is kind of important. What your dad tried to do is murder our relationship with Ukraine. And Joe Biden's, the theory would be, if you use the prosecutor going, that he killed that dude's career in self-defense, protecting Ukraine and the United States. And so a threat was issued about financial, like loan guarantees and the like, in the case of Joe Biden, in case, military funds in the case of your dad, but for two distinct reasons, different reasons. Yeah, so I'm sorry, you're stupid. Go ahead.
Can you imagine what it'd be like? And yet, it's dead silent.
Yeah, that's because we can tell the difference between murder and killing in self-defense, for example. Like, just to use that. It's like the difference, and you might not understand this being a third-generation slumlord, but it's the difference between going into a bank and making withdrawal and holding the place up. Both guys might have walked out with a bag of money, but your dad, it wasn't his money. See how that, see, I don't know, understand it. Guys, Joe Biden is walking out of the bank with like $1,000 in cash. Just because my dad went in there with a gun and demanded it, what's the difference? Can you imagine if the left...
There's absolutely nothing. Joe sold the whole country out. Hunter's probably getting something on the upside.
Oh, you look at the desperate wish. Oh, wouldn't that be nice if you could? Yeah. Are we gonna find out that you got some stuff on the slide? Yeah, and then the money dried up because this guy doesn't need you anymore? Is that the problem? I mean, I appreciate. Yeah, we're doing this whole video. I didn't put this picture up. Understand, this is his Rumble that he released. This is the thumbnail that's on there, but this is also what's on screen the whole time. Wow, Biden hands another win to Putin. Picture of Putin looking, I guess, coy, looking kind of gazing off into the middle distance, whatever. But he's leaving this on the screen. It's very important to Don Jr. that he shares a screen with what he believes to be a flattering picture of Vladimir Putin, and wow, Biden hands another win to Putin.
We all know, or they just have so much on him that he's just doing whatever he can to make sure it...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's so much compromat that the Russians have.
Doesn't come out. But to me, and to the rest of the world, Biden sure likes he's Putin's puppet. And
Sorry. Biden what?
And to the rest of the world, Biden sure likes he's Putin's puppet.
Yeah, sure likes he's Putin's puppet. I agree. But what?
And to the rest of the world, Biden sure likes he's Putin's puppet.
You're not going to edit this? I mean, you could just put a picture up. You could use footage. You have the ability to fix. Biden sure looks... What?
And to the rest of the world, Biden sure likes he's Putin's puppet.
Yes, Biden sure likes he's Putin's puppet. What?
And man, I don't know how you can get around that. I don't know how anyone can spin it any other way.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone can spin it any other way. That you give Putin what he wants, it's terrible.
When people call you brilliant, it's always good, especially when the person heads up Russia.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also as a person that kills journalists, political opponents, and
invades countries.
And invades countries. Obviously, that it would be a concern, would it not?
He's running his country, and at least he's a leader. Unlike what we have in this country.
All right. So, holy smokes. Sorry, we got to finish up, guys.
Let's see the transcripts.
The transcripts? Of what?
Right? Per the Trump era guidelines, this would be obstruction and quid pro quo and impeachable.
What? Why? I'm sorry, did he ask for their help with an investigation? Did he send his personal attorney to Ukraine and they turned him down in looking for dirt on your dad? So, this poor man. This poor man.
What's going to happen? Nothing.
Right. That's because you, just like Dan Bongino, you seem to see reality through some sort of weird bullshit kaleidoscope.
But America last, guys, is not a winning policy for us. America last is a losing policy for Americans.
Yeah, that's why no one's actually doing it.
And yet, that's exactly what Joe Biden is pushing these days.